is Jacqueline Luqman and Abdushahid Luqman, and welcome to another episode of Live in Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Luqman Nation.
The most dangerous show on social media.
So, today is the MakeUp show. We did not have a show yesterday at our regularly scheduled time because the unusually warm weather that so many people were so excited about was really kind of frightening. And our middle-aged bodies are not used to that kind of swings in temperature. So both of us were a little bit under the weather yesterday, but we did not want to let this week proceed without having a chat with our friends and family about all the myriad ridiculous shenanigans going on in the world.
Exactly. Yep.
So, what was I about to say? My thought just went right out the window.
Well, pass me the ball.
Okay,
so
there you
I got it. So while Jackie's trying to get her thoughts together, we first of all, thank you for joining us on our MakeUp show. Invite your family, your friends, your co-workers, and even those that you don't really F with. You just want to mess with them, and and just share this video. I asked somebody on there if you could start a watch party. Let's just get this thing going on. This is the new year. This is 2020. Truth telling is done right here. Mm-hmm. We're not going to spin. There's no fake news here. We're not going to spin. Mm-hmm. We're not promoting anybody's agenda. We're just trying to get more informed and try to keep this thing on the right side.
Yeah, there's on the truth side.
The
maybe
truth
that's
side. There you go.
So speaking of truth, okay, Iran.
Iran.
We've got to talk about the latest events in Iran because there have been some. Oops, forgot to turn my notifications down. There have been some latest developments. If you have been watching the news, listening to the news, not under any rock whatsoever, you would know that Iran has taken responsibility for accidentally hitting the Ukrainian airliner, killing over 160 some
I think 173 people.
Yeah, on the airliner.
Well,
it was a
died.
Civilian. Excuse me, a civilian commercial airliner. It was taking off from Tehran at the same time that Iran was within its legal and internationally recognized right to defend itself and respond to the United States act of aggression and war, really, which was the drone assassination of not only General Qasem Soleimani in Iraq, but also the Iraqi military leader Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. That was carried out, 2 weeks ago?
About 2 weeks.
In Iraq. Iraq is sovereign soil. The United States, under the Trump administration, decided that they were going to assassinate these people, claiming they were terrorists, by sending a missile into... It just blows my mind still every time I repeat this. Sending a missile to a commercial airport in Iraq where General Soleimani and al-Muhandis and several other members of a delegation had landed, as we later found out, to go to a meeting with Saudi Arabia to negotiate some type of peace deal. But that was an act of war.
Definitely an act of war.
That was initiated.
I think everybody was in agreement to that.
There's nobody who is unsure about the fact that what the Trump administration did was an act of war. Iran showed an incredible amount of restraint in responding the way they did, because they intentionally directed their response to a military base in Iraq where U.S. soldiers were stationed, but none of the missiles hit no U.S. soldiers died. No Iraqi soldiers died. No one died from the intentional Iranian response. Unfortunately, there was some type of human error. At least that's what the official line is. Now, look, the internet being what it is, and U.S. policy being what it is, there are questions about how convenient it is that a civilian airliner just happened to have been.
But isn't it a shame that we are under the governance and leadership of people that you have to second guess like this?
Exactly.
You
I mean,
know,
because
that's bad.
in a perfect world, the assassination would have never happened. If any government leader who respected anybody else's rights or laws or process was under suspicions of some other leader plotting something against this government, there would have been processes that would have been followed,
Right.
like taking the case to the UN Security Council, having the person apprehended. All kinds of other stuff could have been done other than, hey, let's kill him with a missile at a commercial airport.
I mean, yeah, well, not only just a commercial airport. I wanted to just fill in some of the lines that you said about the attack. The air base was basically from they attacked the same air base that Soleimani and Al Muhandis was murdered in. But they also did it at the same time it happened.
Exactly. It was at the the exact same time of the day. And so, so
but you are right. Forgive me for interjecting, but you are right about the civilized way that the Iranians carried this out.
Right.
And we'll get into that a little bit later about the civilized way, because first of all, they informed some of the United States, who's supposed to be Iraq's ally, didn't do. The Iranians informed the Iraqi government that they were going to carry out this attack.
Right.
Jackie and I believe that, and this is the Luqman theorem, is that the reason why, well, for one thing, the reason why Iran done this is because it's the proper thing to do, to inform a sovereign nation that you're about to, attack someone on their territory. So it's something I said again, the United States didn't do. And number two, it gave the Iraqi government time to clear out those areas.
Right. And now,
so that it was intentional. It was intentionally to avoid casualties.
Exactly. And now the United States is claiming that the reason there were no U.S. casualties is because the United States had prior warning. But look, that's what the United States does. This government always has to twist the narrative to make it seem as if they're smarter than everybody else in the room. They're the smartest people on the block.
And that's something coming from Trump, right? It's
Yes.
like when they act like that, and then you're looking at the vessel that this is coming out of. We were warned.
Right.
Way ahead
We
of
had
time.
plenty of time.
Yeah. And so it's the thing, like, okay, they act like they're the smartest people on the planet, or that they have all this intelligence stuff, but you look at the vessel.
Right.
And your brain, the right half and the left half, can't just put that together with this guy.
So okay, about the Ukrainian airliner that was tragically shot down, a few things are noteworthy in the way the Iranians responded. It took them a couple of days because an investigation needed to happen. Some type of cursory investigation needed to happen. But when it became clearer that it was an Iranian missile that hit the plane, Iranian officials immediately took responsibility for hitting the plane with the missile and apologized profusely. As a matter of fact, one Iranian government official said that, "I wish I were dead." I think he was the Iranian military commander. And, I know in the United States, those are just words.
But this, you're talking about cultural expressions too. I mean, you compare George Bush video when the United States shot down the Iranian commercial passenger airliner, and you had George Bush get on there defiantly saying that I'm not going to apologize for what the United States does. I don't care about the facts, and then you look at what the response of the Iranian government was.
Right.
And so Jackie and I have been saying this for a long time, is that and even with some of our Facebook friends who immediately snatched on the narrative that that this guy that General Soleimani was somehow evil, that the Iranian government. We won't say regime here because that's propaganda too.
Right.
You hear all the time in American media about regime. Regime suggests some illegitimacy. and the Iranian Islamic government been around since like 1979, with the full support of the people. Maybe no government has all the support of the people. I don't care where you go, but they have enough support that they've been there now for like 30 years. And the funeral of General Soleimani proved that all that attack did, all the murder of General Soleimani did, was really just solidified the position of the clerics and the supreme leader,
Right.
the religious cleric, the religious government, the theocracy of the Iranian Republic had just been solidified. So that so-called government change that the United States was counting on, they just effed that up.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, and the interesting thing is that there had been protests in Iran prior to the U.S. attack where, some Iranians are not happy with the leadership under the clerics. But we have to understand why that leadership even exists. Again, it was because of the United States. So, in regard to the Ukrainian air tragedy, the United States government has the blood of those people on its hands.
But if you look at the Ukrainians should know something about it because the Malaysian airliner was shot over their territory.
I mean, oh my gosh, there are so many. There is that one, and then there was when Iraq during the Iraq-Iran war, when Iraq, I think it was Iraq who accidentally shot a U.S. destroyer, and the United States wanting Iran to be defeated in the war so badly that the United States government forgave Iraq for sending a missile into a U.S. destroyer and blamed Iran. I mean, so this kind of thing, this is why there are some people who are asking, was this really an accident or was Iran set up? Now, look, we don't know.
Well, I mean, the question that I formulated in my mind is that if Iran took time to inform Iraq that they were going to shoot missiles, why would they allow a commercial flight to leave their airport knowing that they're about to send missiles up in the air?
Right.
Again, Iran is a very educated society. Iran is not some backward, two-street puddle water country. It's not a so-called banana republic. And so this is a very sophisticated society. So it was just kind of hard and again, anything is possible. Things happen. But at the same time, it's hard for me to imagine that that a country with this type of sophistication would knowingly tell Iraq, hey, we're about ready to send some missiles your way.
Right.
Usually the protocol would be to shut down the airport so these type of things don't happen.
Right. So, I mean, that's a great point. But again,
we don't know.
We don't know. Right now, the story is that Iran is taking responsibility for the tragedy, and that's fine and that's great. But again, we're talking about now the United States government, especially under this deformed, spray tanned blob of flesh, is tweeting out in support of the Iranian protesters who were protesting in the streets before the Iranian government took responsibility for the crash. There were protests, and there had been, like we were saying, there had been protests against the clerics before the U.S. before the U.S. attack in Iraq on Iran and Iraq. I know this sounds so confusing. Here's the thing. We have to understand whose responsibility all this mess is. It's the United States and the UK. It really is. The entire mess of a situation in Iran is a result of a long-standing hatred that the United States and the UK has levied against Iran. The Islamic government in Iran exists as a result of, or as a response to, the United States overthrowing a democratically elected progressive leader that the people of Iran voted for after the last Shah was, what was he? Was he deposed? Yeah, he was.
He fled the country, came here, and died of cancer.
You put things so.
Well, that's what happened. He came here for treatment. Allegedly came here for treatment and died of cancer.
He did. He actually did.
Yeah.
But we have an article outlining the history of the conflict with between the United States and the UK and Iraq and Iran, so you can get on Medium, so you can get a clear understanding of whose fault this all is. Everything that has happened in Iraq, in Iran, it's all the responsibility of the UK and the United States, literally doing all of this for oil. It's all for oil.
Yeah, it's for oil. You're right, mainly, and it's also to eliminate any possible resistance to the agenda of white supremacy, imperialism.
Yes, absolutely. That is also true.
Right, because the United States, and this the United States is not the first empire to to react in this way. But most empires do not like being resisted. They don't like being challenged. And the United States, but see, empires in the past didn't have this extra stink of white supremacy to it. Even the Romans weren't white supremacists because that construct didn't exist at the time.
That's true.
Right. So imagine if the Mongols had white supremacy with them, or the Romans had white supremacy. I mean, it'd be a different world today. Yeah. But the fact remains is that the United States is the first, maybe the British, but the British and the United States were the first two empires with that taint of white supremacy, which really tainted the way they dealt with the world, and the way that they viewed the world, and the way, even to this day, how the world, the way that the world is today, because of these empires and the ideology of white supremacy.
That's a great point. You're absolutely right. And I actually got my historical events backward. Mohammed Mossadegh, how do you pronounce his name?
Mohandas?
No, Mossadegh.
You're talking about the Shiite cleric, Mossadegh.
Okay, yes. Who was the democratically elected leader in Iran, that the CIA overthrew because he wanted to nationalize the oil industry, and the UK didn't like it. The United States didn't like it, so the UK asked for help from the United States in getting rid of Mossadegh, and they did. The CIA fomented a coup, overthrew him. The United States and the UK then installed Reza Shah Pahlavi. He ruled for 25 years. Then that's where the Savak intelligence agency came from. And they literally disappeared people, just like all CIA-backed intelligence agencies do when they are created in countries where U.S. and Western imperial puppet leaders are propped up. They also create these brutal, repressive, Gestapo-like intelligence agencies, basically to spy on the citizens to quell any type of resistance to the government that the Western powers just installed.
Soprano analogy.
Oh, yay! It's been almost a month before we had a Sopranos analogy.
Tony Soprano went into the ghetto of Newark, New Jersey, where I originally lived, and they were looking for houses. And when they were having this scam with the HUD organization,
right,
to get these old houses, flip them, and all this other kind of stuff. Tony Soprano went into old Italian neighborhood, which black people took over because they moved out. And so Tony Soprano was showing his son about the old neighborhood. And of course, it's all abandoned crack houses and stuff like that. So Tony Soprano goes to his guy in the government, and tells the guy in the government, you need to get rid of those people. So the councilman said, well, you're a mobster. Can't you just go? And he said, yeah, a bunch of white guys busting up caps in New York, in Newark, New Jersey. Same analogy. The United States, look, these white guys can't go into Iran and just start killing people. That's not proper. So we gotta have somebody that look like them do it.
Right, exactly. And I'm so glad you said that. Because actually, here's the weird thing about the Savak Intelligence Agency. And then we encourage you to look this up. It's fascinating for us to look this history up and to connect it to what's going on today. The members of the Savak intelligence agency wore white shirts and black bow ties, paying homage to the way the CIA agents who trained them dressed.
Wow.
And they wore these things as they were snatching Iranians off the street who were protesting the Shah. And this was anybody. This was working class people who didn't like how the elites in Iran under the Shah were becoming disgustingly rich from the oil profits. Leftists, communists, Marxists, and also the Islamists.
Well, the intelligentsia, and them, they're always, in any repressive regime, the intelligentsia is always the first to be targeted.
Yep. So that happened. The Shah ruled for 25 years, and the people of Iran had enough and overthrew the Shah, ran him out of Iran, and that's where the Islamic government of Iran came from in response to the U.S. imposed rule of Reza Shah Pahlavi.
Well, the biggest threat, and then we'll move on from here. The biggest threat to this whole creation of this secular of the Shah and everything you had just mentioned was Ayatollah Khomeini.
Right.
Ayatollah Khomeini was in exile in France at the time. I told Jackie that I had his book, basically his manifesto, his collection of essays and stuff, and I found it in the bin. Americans, oh my God. It was like the greatest find that I've had in my politically aware existence. I found his book in a bin. And I bought it for $2.
Wow.
And it was the greatest find that I had. And I didn't know who Ayatollah Khomeini was at the time. You know, but I went home and I read that book from cover to cover, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And then so when the Islamic Revolution took place, now mind you, I got this book like in 78 or 79.
Wow.
I was just getting ready to go to high school. And so when the Islamic Revolution took place in 79, when that happened, I was like, oh, this is who the guy is, you know. So I mean, the fact that somebody threw that book away, you know. But the point of being is that he was welcomed back as and we see this all the time when the United States when they rampage through these societies. You know, people, you know, human beings respond to that stuff. And so it might not be, I mean, let's look at the Khmer Rouge. You know, I mean, I'm sure that wasn't the first choice that I think it was Cambodians, right?
Cambodians.
I don't think that was the first choice that the Cambodians would have liked. But we saw a movie, Jackie and I saw a movie where they and it was from the Cambodians. This was no American-made movie. And one of the characters in that movie stated that he followed the Khmer Rouge because he got tired of the people got tired of being bombed daily by the United States Air Force. And the Khmer Rouge was the only ones that were standing up to that. And he said, I joined them because the United States was bombing us daily.
I mean, when we look at the instability and honestly the brutality and the torture and the just death around the world, especially in black and brown countries, because you know the United States is not invading or overthrowing the government of any European country.
No, they just bill them. Like Trump go in there and say, okay, you got to pay us more for NATO. Well, they ain't saying bombing nobody.
Right.
Well, I mean, even with the whole Brexit thing, and I mean, you know, and look, white folks then drug the whole world into war twice. You know, but at the same time, and that's a good point you brought up, Jackie, is that, you know, even when the United States under Clinton went to the aid of the Serbs, I mean, to the Bosnians,
right?
They had to be prodded to do that. They didn't want to bomb another white man. They had to be prodded into doing that.
We can't bomb white people.
I mean, the Israelis was the one who told the United States, you got to help these people. Even the Israelis said, because remember, the United States didn't even want to give them weapons.
That's right.
They were being slaughtered, the Bosnians. And if you ever, you know, if you don't remember that conflict, you know, go look it up. But, you know, it was during the time that Yugoslavia broke up into, you know, these separate...
the independent states,
ethno states. And so, and the Bosnians, which was the Muslim part of, they were being slaughtered by the Serbians and the Croats, you know. And so when they wanted to fight back, the United States was like, well, we're not giving you... And it was this whole dance in the UN about what should we help, what should we do with the Bosnians, and how should we help them. And finally, the Israelis, who were right on this part of history, the Israelis said, you got to give them weapons. You know, you can't just allow these people to be slaughtered. And look, the Bosnians are white people, but they had the wrong religion.
There you go. There you go.
So this whole anti-Muslim thing with the United States has been around a long time.
Islamophobia has been a part of this nation's fabric for anything that's not European descended and so-called Christian. This country finds a reason to hate it. Well, it doesn't find a reason. That is the reason. So, I mean, so as we look at how things are unfolding in Iran.
But they only like Christians when they're white and evangelical. Because, I mean, throughout Latin America, I mean, in Venezuela, full of Christians.
Full of Christians.
And Bolivia, full of Christians. But see, when those Christians want to withhold their resources, and when those Christians want their resources to help other Christians in their country and stuff, then these Christians up here, these evangelical ones, then it's not what Jesus did. You know what I mean? So you know, they...
You're right. Yes, I mean...
There's no Muslims in Venezuela. I mean,
I'm sure there are some.
No, what I mean is, it's a majority Catholic country.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, I mean, how about going right back to the beginning? Frederick Douglass talked about Haiti and how Haiti was a Christian nation.
Yep.
Look at what the reason, Haiti, that's a whole nother show, because yesterday, is today Monday? Today's Monday. No.
It's Monday.
Yes, today's Monday. See, the whole climate change has messed up my whole barometric gauge in my head, and everything is all out of whack. But yesterday was the 10th anniversary of the earthquake in Haiti. And if you're wondering why Haiti is still fighting for her freedom, look at the history of who ripped her off. And it's not just the French. It's also the United States. And it was happening long before the Clintons. Although they were the latest, they were just the latest in a long line of interference and oppression and abuse of this country. So the United States, you're right. I'm so glad you brought up that point, that it's not just, this country is not just Islamophobic. It's all wrapped into white supremacy also. So, you know, as we continue to look at how the situation in Iran unfolds, there are meetings going on right now between different countries. Japan is getting involved. They're meeting with the Saudis. Other people are meeting with other groups of people to keep the United States from going to war with Iran. All this stuff is going on in the background that's not being widely reported, because every other world leader understands this crackpot. And nobody trusts this man. Everybody understands the reputation of the United States to do this kind of stuff.
And you know, it's funny, when you were just describing that right now, I had a mental picture in my head of the United States as this big muscle bound. You remember Master Blaster in the Mad Max?
Yes.
When you was talking about that, Master Blaster was the United States. This big, strong, physically powerful being with the mind of a child.
Oh my God, that is, and not just under this administration. Woo! Okay, we can't spend any more time on Iran, but we will continue to watch what's going on.
And the United Nations is on top of Master Blaster talking about, no, you're gonna go this way. No attack. No, not now. No. You know, and then saying, no, what was the energy that Tina Turner, because he was in charge of the energy, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. He said, what? Oh, no. No lights for you now. They turn off the lights, and so Tina Turner got to give in to his demands, and then, okay, power on. This is what I had, that mental picture in my head when you was talking about that.
That is actually
and then
really
and then he goes, United States goes through the world with the United Nations on the shoulder. Boom.
That is actually horrifyingly accurate.
Only on Luqman Nation.
Only in Luqman Nation will you get searing critique of American and foreign policy and great relevant references to movies to explain it all for you. Um, so okay, well the next thing that really kind of blew our mind today, actually, it actually didn't really blow our minds. It was just amusing. Cory Booker has dropped out of the race to be the Democratic, to be the nominee for the Democratic Party for
it's so
president.
nice we had this time together, and we won't experience those baby bonds. Since Obama, we won't get another black president. But we like to say we thank you so long.
Okay, Cory Booker was never, ever, ever in the universe a serious contender for the Democratic nominee. He, I think, like a whole lot of other candidates, were just in there to see which blackface people, which blackface people would gravitate to. I honestly believe that about the way the Democratic Party decided who would be,
Not too black though, because Corey and Kamala both biracial.
Exactly, because so
they didn't want to go too black.
No, they didn't want to have anybody like from way down south,
like Michelle Obama.
Well, she ain't from way down south, but Chicago. But yeah, but they didn't want to have anybody. I'm trying to think of a black Democratic. Well, nobody that's really been around. Randall Woodfin, and they don't even like him too much down in Alabama right now. I mean, the Democratic Party has, I'm sure they have plenty of great state level, down ballot, grassroots black Democrats that they could have pulled into this race to at least broaden the discussion, but instead they went with these corporate career politician, honestly carrying the water for the Democratic Party, neoliberal, corporatist, warmongering black folks, neoliberal in blackface 2.0. That's all Kamala Harris and Cory Booker were. Not sorry to see him go. I'm sure T-Bone is really sad. If you remember, Cory Booker T-Bone made up a person called T-Bone who threatened him.
Now the thing of it is, man, we who are on the ground in the black community, we haven't heard of a nickname of T-Bone since '72. I mean, Black Street guys, I won't call them thugs, but black street guys who are on the fringes, we haven't heard T-Bone since '72. So for somebody in this day and time, or even just 10 years ago, nicknaming himself T-Bone, first of all, he'd be a good catch for the cops. He couldn't do no crime, because all they got to do is say T-Bone did. Well, there's only one T-Bone.
Only one T-Bone.
Yeah. So, I mean, black, those of us black folks who's on the ground, we knew that was a made-up story from the beginning.
And you know what another made-up story is? His relationship with Rosario Dawson.
Now, who called that?
You did.
I called that from the beginning.
Yes, you did.
I said that is... I said that is something that is not true. And then, way before Cory Booker dropped out of this race, Jackie and I was talking about it, and I said, Jackie, where's Rosario? Why? I mean, this is supposed to be her man. Why is she not stomping for him? She's a star, a movie star, and I mean, and still relevant. Mm-hmm. And I mean, she was out there thumping for Obama, big time when he was running.
That's true. Right. I forgot about that.
But you can't thump for your man?
No, but not.
What's up with that?
No, you can't when he's not really your man.
Right. Oh yeah, let me drink my tea too. Yeah, but that's true. I mean,
I'm sure she's glad that she didn't have to do any more photo ops with him.
Yeah, he just got to give her that last check that he dropped out from. I'm sure she didn't already called them.
That was such a ridiculous mess that they made that. It was such a conveniently timed relationship during the right before the.
First of all, I keep telling everybody, I was in Newark when Cory Booker was running for mayor.
That's true. Tell them about Cory.
Cory never had a woman with him. I'm just gonna leave it there. Cory never had a woman with him. There was no woman seen around him. There was no woman campaigning for him. There was no woman doing anything. He was by himself. Now, I'm just not saying it's right or wrong. But now all of a sudden, this was just for mayor. Now all of a sudden, now you're running for president, and now here come Rosario. When you had time to do that?
Yeah, real suspect. Now, seriously though, in all seriousness, Cory Booker's departure from the campaign doesn't. It doesn't. I know the think pieces are gonna come out. You know, oh, now that Cory Booker's gone, there are no more black candidates. Man, look, we don't need any more neoliberals in blackface. We really don't. Cory Booker, um, his ideas were no different from uh, your garden variety Democratic Party neoliberal. He was a staunch supporter of privatization. What he and Mark Zuckerberg and Oprah Winfrey did to Newark public schools through that whole charter movement that was championed and partially directed by Betsy DeVos. Yes, that Betsy DeVos. He celebrated the work that her organization was doing years ago. That man, if he would do that in Newark, what do you think he's going to do to the public school, to the public education system for the entire country?
Well, but see, I always felt that the biggest tragedy was, okay, those, these the billionaire class, millionaire class, these corporatists, they're going to do what they do. I felt like the biggest tragedy was that they used our kids.
Yeah, that was the biggest tragedy, and I feel like I need to make it clear here. Luqman Nation is not opposed to charter schools just because charter schools exist. There are some charter schools that are filling a very large gap in the public school education, in the public school system, in regard to educating especially marginalized kids and informing our kids about our history. Now, our argument is that we cannot leave the education of our children to anybody else's public school system. But the system is what it is. So there are some people out there, like here in DC, there's Roots Academy that has an African-centered curriculum, right? And there are other, charter schools that are doing good work, that are producing great results for especially marginalized communities. However, the biggest problem with charter schools is that there is a push by the federal government to take public funds and use them to fund charter schools, which takes money out of public schools. But then when everybody's kids don't get selected to go to the charter school, then everybody else's kids are left in underfunded public schools. And then the same government turns around and says the public schools are failing, and then they close those schools. So then you still have this overcrowding, underfunded, poor quality school issue that is made worse by the charter school phenomenon, which there are no federal oversights for charter schools.
Well, which violates Boyd versus Brown.
Right.
And see, that's the thing, is that, all of this, we go back to the chicken and egg. That none of this would have to be there would be no need for charter schools had this country just obeyed Brown versus Board of Education.
That's right.
There would have been no need for these things. There wouldn't have been no need for all of this No Child Left Behind and all of this stuff, and Title I and Title 8 and Title 100 and all the other stuff the government plays around with to pretend that it's trying to to promote equality in education. But the fact remains is that they have a status quo in this country, and they want to maintain that. So Brown versus Board of Education was purposely not obeyed by these states, because you have the underclass, which is supposed to be us, educated on a level that their kids are educated on. Then who can exploit whom? You know what I mean? Capitalism is all about making money. So making money off of whom? Somebody got to be fodder for the system.
Somebody got to be it.
And we were brought here to be fodder for this system. They tinkled around and tangled around and stuff, gave lip service to equality, and wanted us to enjoy this the fruits of citizenship, which we still haven't. So so all this stuff about in Luqman Nation, we say this: don't get mad at the teachers who teach in charter schools. Don't get mad at the uninformed parents who send their kids to these charter schools. Everybody just wants what's best for them and their family. What we need to be angry at is the system that allowed this stuff to have to happen. All they had to do was just go with what the Supreme Court said, Brown versus Board of Education, put full commitment into that, and we wouldn't have to be here today.
I mean, it all goes back to the thing we love the most in Luqman Nation, which is history. Doesn't it? Yep. Doesn't it? It all goes back to history. So you got somebody like Cory Booker who has this horrendous track record just in that one area. And because people don't understand the history of why charter schools pose such a threat to what was supposed to be the free public education of all American citizens, then people just act like that's not a big deal. But that man was a dangerous threat. He was a mess. Oh, he was nice and he was charismatic, and yeah, he looked funny when he got all hyper and his eyes bugged
but
out.
See,
and all
but
that stuff,
we talk about these neoliberals and stuff, and we there's two things that I take position on. Is that number one, as long as we get these people that's coming out of these universities and colleges, that's all you're going to get.
Oh, yeah.
These colleges and universities that they come from, that's the only agenda that they teach. They teach the agenda empire. That's the reason why that even black people, and then Carter G. Woodson talked about the miseducation of the Negro and all this kind of stuff. But that is one of the reasons why that no matter how much they look like us, the fact of the man, their mind is not. Their mind is far away from what we really need to advance in this country, because the only education that they're given, colleges and universities has ceased to be those institutions where they were creating leaders who would think. That was the purpose of university education, is to create a class of leadership that that was free thinkers, right? At least that's what they said. But now, since the corporate takeover of all of these things, the education now is just to promote empire and to not challenge authority and not to challenge the corporatocracy.
Exactly. And the last word on Cory Booker, the other thing he said, and I think he said this recently, was that he would rather cut off his hand than to oppose Israel. Something like that. The worst thing that could happen is if a wedge were drawn between the United States and Israel, and he would never not support them, and he would rather cut off his hand before he would support Israel.
For a so-called black man to say this about Israel and not say anything about Haiti, now. For a black man to say this about Israel, but not say, I would rather cut off my hand before I let Haiti be exploited anymore by any other country. To say, as a black man, to sit up there and say, I would rather cut off my hand before I allow another foreign oil company to go over there and ravage the environment of Nigeria and Niger and all those other things and suck up the resource. Or I would rather cut off my hand before I allow another foreigner. The richest person in the Congo, right, is an Israeli billionaire.
Oh, my God.
An Israeli billionaire is the richest person in the Congo because for some reason he snaggled up all of the cobalt mines and all the mining and not a black man, an Israeli. Now, as a black man in this country running for president, I would rather cut off my hand before I allow another piece of cobalt to be taken out of the ground in the DRC and allow those people to continue to live off of 50 cents a day. I would rather cut off my hand. But no, you rather cut off your hand about Israel, who has just a racist track record as the United States or Britain and anything else. The same Israel that gave apartheid South Africa nuclear technology, which enabled South African apartheid government to have nuclear weapons. So when Mandela and them took over, the United States and Britain brought them all up.
Yep.
Just so black people couldn't have it. So white supremacy is about maintaining the balance of power in favor of white supremacists. Because they knew that if black people got that bomb, there's a lot of get back. And you know what? We know y'all got more than us, but damn, we got 5 bullets.
It's like, what? Okay, you might take us out, but
you won't take us out. You got more.
That's all right. You gonna have some scars.
Yeah.
Cause you look, man.
But the United States and Britain brought up those nuclear weapons, and the United States, I think, Britain took some. United States exploded theirs in the Pacific, so they said.
Right. Yeah, they ain't exploding nothing in the Pacific. Brewski is letting us know that our time is short. So, our last point, and I'm so glad you ended on white supremacy, because I think Meghan Markle learned that becoming a princess doesn't exclude you from white supremacy.
It doesn't protect you from white supremacy. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's the truth. Now, last week, Princess Meghan Markle. Now, look, we don't follow the royal family. We don't really give a crap about those people. This is just really an incredibly interesting story because of the way white supremacy works and the way black people actually, some of us really think that when one of us gets a come up, that all of a sudden white supremacy don't matter no more. So Meghan Markle, who is already an actress herself, don't ask me what she starred in. I don't watch those. I don't watch those kind of movies. I don't know. Don't ask me. But anyway, I think she was an actress. So she marries Prince Harry. Harry is one of Princess Diana's sons. They fall madly in love. They have this beautiful, beautiful. I knew you were gonna do that. They did not play that song at their wedding, but they did have a very African focused wedding. They had the Archbishop, the Black Archbishop in the UK speak at the wedding. And they played a lot of, nice black folk songs. And then she moves into the palace, and then she finds out just how racist the British really are. Look, as much propaganda as the United States is guilty of imposing on its people here, because I really do believe that Americans are the most propagandized people on the planet.
Oh, we are.
I really do believe that nobody on the planet understands less about the rest of the world than we do.
Well, we have we own the least amount of passports in the world.
We don't go nowhere because we anyway. So
even when we were allowed, even when we were welcomed at most places,
exactly, we're like, nah, that's all right.
We ain't welcome now.
We got everything we need here.
Yep.
Okay, so Meghan moves into the palace and gets a healthy dose of the UK press.
And I bet you when she moved in that palace, that damn queen was throwing shade every day.
I'm sure she was.
With her slick mouth.
This is the same queen who threw all kinds of shade at Princess Diana. Just for being a young British girl who was a teacher, who liked pop music, who, she was not refined and she wasn't born and bred to be married into the aristocracy in the UK.
Right.
Okay, there was a whole history behind that, but the queen treated Princess Diana like shit.
Yeah, she did.
And then the reason Princess Diana is dead is because the British press hounded that woman relentlessly. I mean mercilessly. They talked about her mental state. I think they drove her to a breakdown. They were horrible, but the British press is like that.
Right.
And because, see, we're so used to having the press here lie to us, but lie to us in a very polite way. We don't understand what it's like to be the subject of
that type of
that type of just blatantly brutal, mean-spirited, hateful. Just the British press really pulls no punches.
Well, I think one of the positive things that came out of Princess Diana's death was the fact that it changed the laws toward paparazzi.
Exactly,
because that's how she actually died.
Right,
they
literally chased the car that she and her boyfriend, I think the fiance Dodi El Fayed, were in a tunnel and caused the car crash. So now, understanding that part of the history of the royal relationship with the press, Meghan Markle's husband, Prince Harry, said today, he released a statement saying that he did not want to subject his family to the same forces that killed his mother. So he understands how brutal the UK press could be.
Course, yeah.
And he saw the way they were treating his wife and their baby, and he was like, nah, fuck that, we leaving.
Right.
No, we ain't doing this. Nope, we out. But here's the other part of this story that is fascinating to me. Now, when Meghan Markle was engaged to Harry and they got married, a whole bunch of black women, and a couple of black women I knew, were all excited. And I'm like, why? Because I'm not getting a tiara. When I got married, I had to buy my own tiara. It was lovely, by the way. But I'm not getting any crown jewels. We didn't get any residuals from Meghan Markle getting to come up and marrying a prince. None. We got nothing. But black folks acted like it was just the best thing. And ooh, girl, we in there. We ain't in nowhere. And not only
like your ghetto ass, but he gonna take your ghetto ass and what they call Windsor or something.
Yeah, Windsor Castle.
Yeah, like Prince Harry gonna come over there and take your ghetto ass off of Stanton Avenue, and here you is talking about, girl, look at me, coming out the carriage and stuff. Hey, and take your cell phone. Hey, girl, I gotta come up there. Hey.
I mean, people. Some of us acted as if this was a win for us as a people. That was ridiculous. It was not. I mean, it was nice to watch the wedding and to just kind of veg out on the pageantry because it's very beautiful. And who doesn't like a love story? Especially an against all odds love story. Yeah. Sure, okay, fine. But this was not a win for us as a people. You know why? Because Meghan Markle married into a family that amassed its riches off of the white supremacist, imperialist, colonial oppression of brown people around the world. There was a saying that the British Empire used to have. They don't have it anymore. They can't say it anymore. But they used to say that the sun never sets on the British Empire. You know why? Because the British Empire included colonies that it acquired by force through war and through annexation that spanned the globe pretty much. So, when the sun rose in one country that was a part of the British Empire, that was a British colony, then the sun would set on another part of it. Across the world. As a matter of fact, the UK is the reason we have Palestine and Israel rather than just Palestine. The UK is the reason we have Iraq. That is one region instead of the three separate regions that the Ottoman Empire knew better to put them all together and understood that you need to keep the Shiites, the Sunnis, and the Turks separate for 400 years. The British are the reason we have Pakistan and India.
Yeah, and the British is the reason why that people of color, especially colonized by the English, which is the reason why you have a lot of those caste systems over there.
Exactly. And
the same way down in South Africa, wherever the British went, because you can't be one nation and control that many people. 1/3 of the planet, of the population of this planet was under the crown. Right. So you can't rule that amount of number of people without having having mechanisms to keep those people at each other. And as the British found out that especially in Africa, that once people got tired of being subjected, then the Mau Mau's came up, and when Africa started their revolutionary movements and stuff, then they found out it's not so easy to suppress the aspirations of the people.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you brought up Africa, because I was going to mention, not to mention all of the colonies in Africa that were former British colonies, and you can see the influence of the British rule still in some of these colonies, where these people in Africa still wear these ridiculous wigs from the colonial. The judges and the lawyers, yes, they
now when you see this, and I just had to say this again, the picture in my mind. Doesn't it just look like grown ass people playing dress up?
It really does.
I mean, like sitting up there, and I'm like, I can't take this seriously.
And I mean, somebody actually explained what it's supposed to mean. That everyone. The wig is supposed to represent the fact that everyone is that the law is blind. There's no respecter of persons. That everybody looks the same.
And so you had to learn that from the British.
And
the same British that colonized you, the same British that exploited you, the same British that you couldn't get no justice under, and all of a sudden you're carrying on that legacy as if they are the progenitors. If that's the right word, but as if they're the originators of justice through law, and you mean to tell me that your ancestors didn't have any mechanisms for that?
especially since the British don't even do it. So
I just think
yeah,
it looks ridiculous.
it looks absolutely ridiculous. But this is the family Meghan Markle married into. She yeah, people were making a big deal about, oh girl, we made it. Look, one of us got ourselves a prince. Well, look at what her marrying into a royal family and getting herself a prince got her.
Right, but I gotta say this too, and I'm sorry if some black women would get angry with me, but a lot of it's because a lot of black women and black people. I won't just put this on black women. A lot of black folks, man, we live too much through TV.
Mm-hmm.
Black people out of all, well, in this country, let me deal with this country. Percentage-wise, black people in this country watch the most TV than anybody else in this country. Black people go to movies and watch movies on a percentage basis more than anybody else. So we are constantly indoctrinated with fantasy. We are constantly indoctrinated with fairy tales and stories and stuff like that. So much so that we're very word I'm looking for. But anyway, I mean, we're suckers for this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And black women especially are suckers for this type of stuff, basically because of the relationships in our own dynamic within our culture, and the fact that we now the only time I see black women go this crazy over something like that, if it's somebody like Idris Elba or somebody like that, But then, but again, it's the fact that we live too much through fantasy, and that we're very entertainment-driven people.
But let's look at why that is, though.
We know
again,
why. Right.
It goes right back to white supremacy,
Yep.
because when you live in a condition that is so absolutely without a whole lot of hope, right? When you're always constantly under pressure, then entertainment is a means of escape. It's escapism.
Well, I mean, nobody. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying that you
right.
are.
What I'm saying is that the reason why you have so many high-five slaps amongst black women, for the most part, with this Meghan Markle thing, is because of this being raised off of television.
Yep.
And having, as my sister Sherazade Ali once said, is having the white woman as a model.
Yes.
And
yes.
living through, and basically living through her fantasies
right.
and dreams.
Living vicariously through her. When when you have been indoctrinated into that mindset, the idea that you can fight for something better. First of all, the idea that doesn't apply to you, the fairy tale doesn't apply to you. That's why Disney is still, just now, in the past 5-10 years, realizing, oh, gee, maybe we should make some of our little cartoon characters not white. I mean, that's in the past 5-10 years.
Now.
Yeah, now they're getting to the Latinos.
Because they're the Latinos now. See, now this is one thing. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this. As black people, man, we have to realize that, white supremacy also do their pick and chooses of who's acceptable to them. See, before the Asians was the model minority. So why can't all of us act like the Asians? Why can't we all be like this? Can't all be like that? Then they skipped over us once again and say, oh, but the Latinos, and this is no shade on our Latino XQ brothers and sisters. No shade on the Asian, no shade on anybody, because we're not the creators of this.
Right.
What we're saying is that one of the ways we can combat white supremacy and their tricks, because we just talked about the British Empire and how they were able to control or rule over 1/3 of the human population during their heyday, is based on the divide and conquer thing.
Right.
And that's the only. And see, white supremacy, when you really look at it, yeah, they put a lot of thought in it, hundreds of years of thought in it. But but it's really a simple system when you really look at it. It's not complicated at all. The thing of it is that when we work against white supremacy, one of the things to push back against white supremacy is not to play their game.
Yep.
So our Latin brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters, and all that, man, don't fall for the flattery. They even said to us that the black woman was the backbone of the black, talking about us. That, oh, the black woman is the backbone, and this and that and the other. And, oh, man, black women fell for that. Oh, we're the backbone, this and that and the other. And, but again, then that's that wasn't a compliment.
Right.
That was just
a put down against black men.
And it was a way to keep us at each other's throat. Which is the reason why when I kept seeing all of these posts against black women versus black men and stuff. And I'm saying we don't even know who the hell done started all this stuff. They done threw the bomb in there, dipped off, and now we left with the carnage.
Yep, that's you know, all this we've been talking this whole episode about propaganda and white supremacy and how, you know, that it uses entertainment.
I like excuse me, Uncle Brother said turn off the television. You're so right, brother.
I mean, and you know what? Look, here's the thing. We like a lot of television. We do. Yeah. We watch a lot of television. I ain't no purist now. No, we're, you know, but here's the thing.
But I watch documentaries mostly, and we pick and choose what we watch.
And that's the thing. When you become conscious of what is really going on, when you understand the propaganda, and you understand that entertainment is used as propaganda pretty consistently and constantly, then you look at entertainment from a very different perspective. And what we found is that some stuff, while, you know, most other people are like, oh, that's no big deal. Some stuff we just can't watch because it's just, the propaganda is just too thick. It's just too much.
I can't do reality TV. I can't.
Oh my Jesus.
I can't do and this is no fault on anybody else who loves this stuff, because I got friends I know who that's all they watch is Real Housewives or whatever, basketball wives, football wives, skiing down mountain wives and all this other. I mean, you know. And I mean, folks, like, but that's just not me, you know. And like I said, there's no shade on those who are into that. But we are what we consume, not just physically, but yeah, we are what we consume.
Exactly. So, you know, we had people really, you know, cheering for Meghan Markle as if she was a member of our family, and you know, I feel bad for her that she had to endure this. I mean, because she had to endure it. There was no way she was going to avoid it. Her marrying into the royal family, like you said, wasn't going to protect her from the white supremacy that is the British Empire. That is the British imperial royal family. I mean, it's like people don't think racism exists in Britain. But black folks in the UK, black Britons were like, how does she not know? She ain't asked nobody. So,
but once again, you know, depending on what position you take, I mean, once again, I mean, she's not the creator of this, and so, you know, it's not so much a fault in her, whether she knew it or not, you know, but they accepted her in that family, you know, reluctantly or whatever, they accepted her in that family. But again, getting back to us, we have to stop living, as you say, vicariously through the lives of white people, because that's what we do. You know, we live through the lives. Well, some of us live through the lives of white people. And we've always done that because they took away who we was. Yep. So by them taking away who we are and our culture and our language and faith and religion and all this stuff, we had to copy somebody. The only way, and the only people that we could copy was the ones that were the white folks that had us enslaved, and that, you know, we were saying the other day that, you know, this analogy has been used a lot of times, so trust me, I'm not making this up. But there's been an analogy that black folks are like Moses. We were raised in the house of Pharaoh. So, I mean, so when you took away our identity, I mean, nature abhors a vacuum. So we had to take on somebody else's identity. I mean, we knew, you know, that we, you know, that was the only model that we had. So, but you know, their culture is, and when I say culture, I'm not saying this in a disparaging way, but what I'm saying is that works for them. You know, it doesn't work for us.
Right. And I'm so glad you said, raised the point about we're like Moses being raised in the house of Pharaoh. Look, regardless of what you believe spiritually, at some point, even Moses being raised in the house of Pharaoh, at some point, Moses understood who he really belonged to.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, Moses rose up against the house of Pharaoh in freeing his people. Now, that's our job. It is our job, it is our responsibility to become conscious, and I don't mean in that weird, like, Hotep 5% kind of, you know, you gotta say you gotta say certain things, and, you know, call each other kings and queens all the time and overstand things, and no. What I mean to become conscious in the way that Kwame Ture said, that we have to engage in continual political education, to be aware of the way we are indoctrinated, the way we are lied to and about, not just in this country, but around the world, and to connect our struggle with the struggle of all people who are oppressed and marginalized and exploited by the same system. White supremacy, capitalism, imperialism, same system. And as we're coming up on Martin Luther King Jr.'s day next week, we have to recommit ourselves to that fight against these multiple evils. So, yeah, we have to have more than a dream. Ooh, that's a good note to end on. Look at me. Right, we have to have more than a dream.
Right, but I got my rant too.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Okay, yes. So, yeah. No, what are you ranting about?
Well, I mean, I'm going to keep it brief because we're way over time, but on the spirit of knowing who we are, on the spirit of political education, you really just, you just tossed me the ball and know it. But on the spirit of like you said, political education, I had a very negative feeling today that was caused by one of my sisters. And when I say one of my sisters, one of my black sisters, who I do not know, but we were in a restaurant, and I overheard her talking on the phone. And I wish we get out of that habit of wanting everybody to hear our conversations, because some of it doesn't need to be heard. And so she obviously she's beefing with another black woman, and how I know that is because black people only get violent and stuff when it's talking about other black people. Because she got on the phone and said, "Girl, I'm going to kick her ass. I'm going to do this, do that, do this, do that." So I immediately knew it was somebody else black, because we don't
talk like that.
We don't talk like that.
We don't talk about doing white people like that, because we go to jail for talking like that.
And not to mention, white folks ain't around us like that for us to even get mad, for them to even do that kind of stuff.
That's true.
They do stuff. Don't worry. We feel their violence, but it's not like they live next door to you. You know what I mean? And so anyway, so she sit up there talking about, "Girl, I'm gonna kick her ass and this big blah 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 blah, blah and I'm gonna beat her ass till she look like Emmett Till." So I immediately spit out my coffee just about, and I turned around, looked at her, and it amazed me that she wasn't a kid. Now, when I said not a kid, she had to be like in her late 30s or something. Not a kid. And I'm saying, so if she knew what Emmett Till looked like, then she had to understand how he got that way. This is what I'm saying to myself. And I said, now, this is indoctrination, negative indoctrination, that we feel that because we can say it, we should speak it. That there's no filter. And the fact that we, as black people, some of us feel that it's just okay to say anything. Now, those of us who know the story of Emmett Till, of course, Jack and I were too young to know when that happened. But I remember that picture of Emmett Till when I was a kid.
Yeah.
In Jet magazine.
Yep.
And I remember how horrified I was. I mean, I didn't even understand at the time who that was. And it wasn't until some years later I learned the story. But I remember looking at that picture, and it gave me nightmares. And then when I finally found, learned the story of Emmett Till, then that fear turned into anger. The fact that that a 14-year-old could be, brutalized in such fashion over something allegedly as innocent as whistling at some woman, who we later found out she lied. So and the fact that his mother, and all of the injustice that surrounded that, the fact that these white men went in his family's house, they couldn't even protect him, his family. Your first defense is your family. The fact that they came in his uncle's house and snatched that boy out just to lynch him, because they said that he didn't show deference in the way, because he wasn't from the South, so that he didn't show deference in the way that they were used to. So they murdered that boy, 14 years old. And so to find that someone who should, to find that someone else is using his image in a way to talk about doing violence to another black person just showed me how fucking far we done fell, some of us. And so, yeah, we are in need of not only political education, but we are also in need of a cultural reform. Because we have just allowed outside forces to indoctrinate us negatively through our music, indoctrinate us negatively through the television programs we watch, indoctrinated negatively through these people who we hold so high up in the hierarchy of who we look up to. It's just like Chris Brown once said, when a person come home from prison, you know, we throw all the stops out and welcome them home and stuff. But the brother or sister who's coming home from MIT, who this nigga think he is? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We need a whole new cultural reform and go back to the people that our ancestors were. You know, the ones that built Wall Street, the Black Wall Street, the ones that you know that we talk about all the time, who in spite of the negative odds and stuff, were able to build communities and everything. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would have been talking about, you know, I'm gonna beat that bitch, man, until she looked like that woman that I saw lynched the other day. You think they would say something like that?
Oh my God.
No, Emmett Till was a martyr. And in most societies, in Arabic society, they call them shaheeds, a martyr. And when you look, and when you see it, Jackie and I was looking at this show where a young Palestinian boy got killed. His picture was all over whatever village he was in. They honored that boy because he fell because his life was taken by his oppressors, and he was a martyr, and they honored him. But what we do, what some of us do with our martyrs, we talking about hurting another oppressed person, another oppressed black person, and talking about making them look like a person who gave their lives, who gave their life. Because Emmett Till's life was used as, Emmett Till's death was the catalyst for the civil rights movement. The fact that black people just said, no, we can't do this anymore. It wasn't the Montgomery bus boycott. It was Emmett Till. Because black people was like, they doing that to our kids now? Mm-hmm. And that's what galvanized a lot of black people to join the movement and to help organize the movement. So this young lady, if she ever gets to look at this, I'm old now. See, I can't, you know, we dealing with a different generation here. There was a time when we used to could go to each other, pull each other up.
Yeah.
But we can't do that now because see now the respect level is just so low that even I as an elder hesitate sometimes to even approach our younger people because the respect is not there sometimes. And but if this young lady ever catch this and hear what I'm saying, please do yourself a favor and put down your cell phone for a minute. Turn off Real Housewives of LA or Basketball Wives or whatever, and start to educate yourself about who Emmett Till really was. Mm. And then maybe you'll think twice the next time you're talking about doing that to another African. Silly.
See, this is why we need to have more than a dream. This is why we need to do more than live vicariously through white society's fantasies of becoming a prince or a princess. We need to be engaged in continual political education, not just to understand the system, but to know very clearly who we are so we can fight in this system and fight together as a people and with all other oppressed people around the world. So that's our show for tonight, y'all. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Jacqueline Luqman.
Oh, that's the shade Luqman. I'm ready to go to bed.
He is ready to go to bed. And we just thank y'all so much for your support. We appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. If you like what you see and hear in Luqman Nation, please consider becoming a patron. Monthly contributions of $3, $5, $7, maybe $20 a month. We greatly appreciate that. That really helps us continue to do what we do and to improve the quality of our shows and to cover live events and do all that kind of stuff. If you are not able to do that, please consider a one-time donation to Luqman Nation through PayPal. You can find us on both platforms, Patreon and PayPal, under Luqman Nation, LuqManNation. Excuse me, on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. On Facebook, like us on Facebook. Share our videos from both platforms. You can listen to me every day, weekday from 2 to 3 p.m. on By Any Means Necessary. Woo-hoo. On Sputnik Radio. I think it's called Sputnik News.com. I need to go to bed too now with the co-hosting with the just amazing Sean Blackman.
No, Sean the Voice.
Sean the Voice Blackman. And you can catch my segments a couple of times a week with the Real News Network, and as always, once a week here in Coffee Current Events and Politics and Luqman Nation. You can catch me, Abdi Shaheed, and every once in a while, Brewski down there on the floor, live. So thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for watching. And as always, be good to each other. Peace, if you are willing to fight for it.
All right.